Nutrition science. Responsive feeding and infant growth. Regardless of whether infants are fed breast milk or formula and continuing when they start solid foods, it's important that caregivers use a responsive feeding approach. Responsive feeding is grounded in 3 steps. 1. The child signals hunger and satiety. This may occur through vocalizations such as crying or talking, actions such as pointing at food or turning away when full, and facial expressions. 2. The caregiver recognizes the cues and responds promptly and appropriately. For example, if the baby seems hungry, he or she is offered food promptly. If the baby turns his or her head or pushes away the breast, bottle, or an offered bite of food, the caregiver does not pressure the baby to eat more. 3. The child experiences a predictable response to his or her signals. With breastfeeding, responsive feeding simply means feeding the baby when he or she signals hunger, and the baby usually turns away, spits out the nibble, or falls asleep when full. When bottle feeding, whether feeding breast milk or formula in a bottle, it's a little trickier. It's human nature to want the baby to finish the bottle that you've prepared, but a responsive feeding approach means that you let the baby decide when he or she has had enough. Pressure to eat more can cause the baby to grow too fast in infancy, which is correlated with becoming overweight or obese later in childhood. When feeding solid foods, the same responsive feeding principles apply. Although solids should be offered at predictable meal and snack times to avoid constant grazing throughout the day, if babies are offered appropriate nutrient-dense foods and fed responsibly, parents generally don't need to worry about serving sizes or amounts eaten. They can trust that their babies will eat what they need. The best way to determine if children are getting enough food is to track their growth. Pediatricians and other healthcare providers do this by measuring a child's weight, length, and head circumference at each checkup and plotting their measurements periodically on growth charts from the World Health Organization. Growth charts allow you to compare your child's growth to a population of other healthy children. Sometimes parents worry that if their child is in the 15th percentile for weight, that means she's not growing well, but this isn't the case. Children come in different shapes and sizes, and some grow faster than others. Thus, a child in the 15th percentile for weight may be a bit smaller than average, but when it comes to body size, the goal is not to be average or above average. The goal is to grow steadily and predictably in a way that is healthy for that individual child. If a child who was previously in the 15th percentile was suddenly measured in the 5th percentile or 50th percentile, that might indicate a health or nutrition problem that warrants further evaluation. Feeding toddlers. Toddlerhood represents a stage of growing independence for children. They gain the physical abilities to feed themselves confidently, and their growing language skills mean they can verbalize food preferences more clearly. Gradually, through exposure and experience, they learn to eat foods more and more like the rest of their family. In the toddler years, it's important to shift from a mindset of feeding on demand, which is appropriate for infants, to one of predictable structure, with sit-down meals and snacks. Usually 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks each day. This prevents constant grazing and means that children come to the table hungry, ready to enjoy a nourishing meal. As much as you can, sit down to meals together so that your toddler learns that part of the joy of eating is enjoying time with loved ones. The AMDRs for children ages 1 to 3 recommend that 45 to 65% of calories come from carbohydrate, 30 to 40% from fat, and 5 to 20% from protein. Compared with older children and adults, this balance of macronutrients includes a higher level of fat to support young children's energy demands for growth and development. Therefore, fat or cholesterol generally should not be restricted in toddlers, although the focus should be on nutrient-dense sources of fat. Pediatricians usually recommend that toddlers ages 1 to 2 drink 2 to 3 cups of whole cow's milk per day to provide fat, protein, and micronutrients, including calcium and vitamin D. At age 2, parents can switch to low-fat or non-fat milk to reduce fat intake. For toddlers with a family history or other risk factors for obesity, pediatricians may recommend switching to low-fat milk sooner. It is important for toddlers to not overconsume cow's milk, as filling up on milk will reduce the consumption of other healthful foods. In particular, toddlers who drink too much cow's milk have a greater risk of iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia, which is a common nutrient for this age group and can cause deficits in brain development. Just as for adults, MyPlate can be helpful for planning balanced meals for children 2 and up, with appropriate serving sizes. A ballpark recommendation for serving sizes for children ages 2 to 6 is about 1 tablespoon per year of age for each food, with additional food provided based on appetite. Other recommendations for feeding toddlers include continuing to offer a variety of foods from all of the food groups, including a mix of vegetables and fruits of different colors, tastes, and textures. Include whole grains and protein sources such as poultry, fish, meats, tofu, and legumes in most meals and snacks. Limit salty foods and sugary snacks for health reasons and so that your child doesn't come to expect these tastes in foods. By 12 to 15 months, wean toddlers from a bottle, transitioning to giving milk at meals in a cup. Prolonged bottle use tends to promote overconsumption of milk and can cause dental caries, particularly when toddlers fall asleep with a bottle. Continue to take care with choking hazards, as many choking incidents happen in children younger than 4. Common choking hazards include hot dogs, hard candy, nuts, seeds, whole grapes, raw carrots, apples, popcorn, marshmallows, chewing gum, sausages, and globs of peanut butter. Ensuring that children are sitting down when eating can help to prevent choking accidents. Stick to cow's milk and water as main beverage choices. Juice can be enjoyed occasionally in small serving, less than 0.5 cups per day, but it is high in sugar and whole fruit provides more nutrition. Plant-based beverages such as soy milk can be used in the case of dairy allergy, lactose intolerance, or strong dietary preference, but be aware that these can be high in sugar and may not offer the same nutrients as cow's milk, so check labels carefully. Flavored cow's milk, soda, sports drinks, energy drinks, and caffeinated beverages should be avoided. Most children can get all of the nutrients they need from their diet, even if it seems that their intake is variable and they are somewhat picky about their choices. Pediatricians may prescribe a fluoride supplement for children living in areas with low fluoride levels in drinking water. They may also recommend a vitamin D supplement for children who do not consume adequate levels in their diet. Nutrition science. Responsive feeding and infant growth. Regardless of whether infants are fed breast milk or formula and continuing when they start solid foods, it's important that caregivers use a responsive feeding approach. Responsive feeding is grounded in 3 steps. 1. The child signals hunger and satiety. This may occur through vocalizations such as crying or talking, actions such as pointing at food or turning away when full, and facial expressions.